how would that person define a house without a permanent area to relate it to?
Tend to imagine that our own way of imagining something is the best way or the only way, and there may be 100 other ways. Perhaps, for example, the nomad uses the whole landscape, that mountain, that river, that good pasture land, that valley, to create a home which is huge. But he doesn't own it. And many of our ideas of home are connected to that farmer, city dweller kind of mind, which looks at ownership. Actually, any poet would say the world is my home. No? Tagore said it. And so the home is something which either is a place of confinement or a place of expansion. And it can only be a place of expansion if there isn't a conflict. Conflict happens with possession. And the whole of this 5,000 years of culture has been the negotiation between holding on and letting go. And this negotiation is right now at a very interesting, extremely crucial phase in which all of us can contribute. And this is something, this question is very good. Follow it through. And I think all of us in our lives have to find how that happens.
Although right now, even in this lecture and otherwise also, we're being told or whatever that the life of the nomads or the farmers were very good and sustainable and everything, but how much possible it is to take things and put it in this time, or how much can we extract and implement in these times? That is what
Well, we do, but I think some of the things that they found in terms of what you do with the world are very important for us to learn from. And maybe that will help us reshape urban civilization. You understand what I'm saying? For example, if the idea of interdependence between farmer and nomad is understood, we could apply it to many other forms of economic activity. Yeah? For example, just now in Greece, a factory which was closed down because of the financial meltdown in Greece, the workers took charge of that factory. And they decided that they would put in their own labor, all of them earning the same salary. No manager, no top boss, nobody, everybody got the same salary, which was whatever they could earn, they just distributed it. And they were making building chemicals. So building chemicals are the worst chemicals. If you are in the building industry, you know that all the things that we quote nowadays, they do horrible damage to the environment during production process. So they decided that we will not make these chemicals anymore. They decided to make soap. And they are doing very well. That group of 40 or so people. They found a way of looking at the farmer's idea of what is production and turned it into an urban economic model. And there may be so many other such lessons that we can learn from all levels of human civilization. The good things, bad things we don't have to take. Huh? So there could be learnings there. Don't go and buy a camel. Do we need a definition or do we need to go at it somehow? I think we we are a culture, I mean, whole of humanity is a culture with some gradations, differences, etc. What it's struggling to do right now is not get stuck. It gets stuck. It gets stuck in so many things. It gets stuck in religions, it gets stuck in... So that doesn't mean that I don't have anything. I can have something that I believe in, but not to get stuck in it. And the whole of culture in the next several decades, I suppose, is going to be how to be unstuck. That will be culture. Not that somebody is doing a Bharatanatyam dance, therefore we call it culture. Culture is not in only external forms. It's in the way human beings relate to each other. That's where culture is. The complexities that have to be integrated into human life. And it's a fascinating story. Please read Mumford. He's a wonderful writer.
Good evening, sir.
Mm.
So, 2 years back, I attended a lecture of yours in which it was more about, you were mentioning about the patrons of the society.
Sorry?
The
About?
patrons of the society, like in civilizations, that how the priests and we ended up with the scientists of this century. And today we reach that the space is quite individual. Today, in the sense of this, the patron is individual. So, I want to ask that if we sort of see this and the way your talk ended, it left me with certain amount of directionlessness, sort of, where I cannot.
No, I was only showing that because we could become directionless if we were not thinking. And the good thing is that all of us are now, awake. And maybe we'll think for at least a few hours more, and maybe over a year more, and maybe through your life. And I think these are the things that this kind of gathering that Tide does. They are meant to do this kind of shaking up. And then we start thinking.
Thank you.
So it's all those things we are only sort of stories. In bedtime stories, sometimes you like a very frightening story to be told, so that you can hug the mother or father. Yeah? So now, there is a way in which we have to hug the world, and we need to frighten ourselves into it. Maybe that's what all the artists are doing today. They are trying to frighten us out of our wits. I mean, I saw just now an installation, just this morning, of digitally created faces hanging in an art gallery. It was shook me up. And it made me realize that we are considering human beings almost like masks. So right now, everybody is trying to give us messages. Hey, wake up. That's all.
I would like to ask that the idea of urban is changing, like it has been changing ever since. So before we saw that the planning of local was urban, but in today's context we understand urban in very different ideas. So I would like to ask, what is urban?
Urban, I suppose, and I'm thinking, I don't know the answer. If there are many human beings living near each other, they need to find ways in which they don't hurt each other and help each other. And the city was a place through which we found law, we found justice, we found the traditional city. Yeah? Now in the new age, where we don't need to physically be in the same place, then I think the modes in which we will relate to each other, even in cyberspace, even in the social media, even in terms of information which is moving across, what are the ways in which we make that work in a manner in which it's more useful in making the world a happier place to be in, rather than a more strife-ridden place to be in. And I think the new urban will probably be an urban in which we will start seeing the value of having a great diversity of people. But that's that's my wish. But it's something like that. I think we have to find how we behave in this new age when geographical location is not the only factor. Though of course it's still a major factor, it can't be thrown away. And you still live in more or less in one place, even if you are traveling a lot. Even if you are traveling a lot, you do come back to one place. And so you start using language in a certain way. And my pronunciation of English is very different from pronunciation in, let's say, Leicester or in Newcastle or somewhere there. Or in Calcutta for that matter, where there are some very amusing variants on the English language throughout India. So they are localized. And I think these are the kind of juicy bits of life that urbanism keeps on throwing up. Special food, special accents, special jokes, all of these keep on happening. That's the other thing. That locality gives rise to certain kinds of jokes. Say in Gujarat you will have Bapu jokes, and in Punjab you will have Sardar jokes, and you will have Irishman jokes like in England. But it's okay, and it creates a certain distinct flavor. That I think we are not going to lose. As human beings, we will hold on to that quite a lot. Because we can remember. That's the other thing. We remember a lot.
And you have given the frightening picture
Yes.
where human beings have made mistakes. And is there a way out as an individual or as a society?
Those are questions for Gandhis. No, but yes, each of us will have to find some way of doing something proper, good. And the pictures, as I said, are only to નાના છોકરાને આપણે બાઘોડો બતાવીએ ને એના જેવું છે. એનાથી ગભરાઈ નથી જવાનું. એમાં પૂરેપૂરો રસ લઈને કે આમાંથી કાંઈક રસ્તો કાઢવો પડશે, જોવું પડે. Can I speak in Gujarati? પાંચ 5000 વર્ષ સુધી રસ્તા કાઢ્યા છે તો હવે ક્યાં હજી છે આપણે જ કાઢશું ને, બીજા કોણ કાઢશે? આપણે કોઈની રાહ જોવા બેઠા તો ગયા અને રોજિંદા જીવનમાં. And there is somebody else there. No?
Thank you for the vast, generous embrace with which you have brought us together and shared with your passion, with your humor and your enthusiasm, great knowledge.
Thank you very much, Anand. No.
That's only the first bit, because actually what you're doing is challenging us. And so we have to rise to the challenge. So if I may amplify what you're ending with by re-challenging everyone to this opportunity. So this is the gift, this is the awareness that you're recreating, representing to us. But so it's big, it's vast. But the wonderful thing is that when we go out here, we're going to experience a miracle, which is the miracle of this city. So this city, in its vastness, in its complexity, in its amazingness. It works. So, and we are part of it. So the city is not an abstraction. The city is a reality. And each of us is part of it. And each of us plays a role. And each of us can make a difference. So from the moment you get up and start to brush your teeth or comb your hair or collapse into bed at night, the city is working around us. And we are of the city. So it's that engagement that actually matters. So, and I call it a miracle, because somehow, when you turn on the tap or when the knock comes on the door and the milk comes, it is miraculous. So anyway, to this wonderful miraculous city that we all belong to, it behoves us all to take part and to make it better. So let's just do it.
Oh, there's someone here? Okay. Let's go there.
So my question is, what type of permanence should the nomads have in today's culture?
What kind of?
Permanence should the nomads have in today's world or today's time?
I suppose they should have mobiles. Without GPS though. Because they can find their way. No, taking more seriously. A nomad should have minimum permanence. So the lesser things he or she has, the more nomadic he or she has. That's it. But they need very strong relations with each other. You know, because that mother who was on the move with her child, and the baby donkey, and the baby goat, and all that had to be taken care of. And for that you needed a family. And that kind of a human coherence or solidarity is something that a nomad lives on. For that he creates songs, he creates stories, he creates kinds of clothes, he creates art. For holding that great sense of togetherness. And maybe instead of permanence, maybe we should be looking at what are the impermanent things that we can share. Like an hour together. It's an impermanent. It's a wonderful share. And like that, so much. The acoustics of this hall has been designed for myself. So I'm not supposed to be a consultant. But I wanted to test, and then I did all the sounds. And we did all this and did the shapes and the diagrams and all. And I showed it to Dr. Ramakrishnan, who used to come for the consultancy from Indian Institute of Science. And he very seriously looked at it. He said, by and large, correct.
Sir, we talked about home, we talked about culture, society, and maybe city. What I want to ask is, in today's time, the world is turning to be nomadic. Everybody, like all of us, doesn't know where we will be tomorrow or where we what is the city? Like all of them were there, homes were there, culture was there. They are now there, but will those things will be in near future? And now we introduce information technology, informatics, all of these things. So, the term of city itself will survive because the decentralization of cities are also a thing which is happening all around the world now. People are moving again to the ideal places than the cities, then prefer to be living in the cities, working from home, working from other places. So will the cities die, or like what can be the conception?
This question was asked about 20 years ago. And several authors wrote, now the city is gone, it won't be there at all. And it's still there, and they're growing, and they're sometimes becoming more enjoyable, sometimes getting worse, but they're there. I think we like both things. We like the idea that I'm free to be wherever I want. But we don't like it when we lose the job. And with this freedom comes this absolute insecurity. You look at what's happening to the people in the IT business. One Mr. Trump changes a law, and huge numbers of people don't know what's going to happen to our lives. So, there's a very important sociologist by the name of Zygmunt Bauman, whom you should read. He has written about this kind of a society which is completely fluid. He calls it liquid modernity. Yeah, he doesn't call it post-modernity, it's liquid modernity. Then he has got books on liquid love, liquid this, liquid that. Everything has become liquid. Nothing stays. Yeah? And so in that, somewhere we have to find the anchors. And maybe it will be, anchor will be language, anchor will be in town, anchor will be in cities, anchor will be in relationships more than anything else. So we'll have to see. We don't know the answer.
So one more thing, when people are becoming nomadic, how strong the concept of a culture, of a society remains? Because every day...
That won't go. See, the nomads are not alone.
Yeah, but in earlier times, what was there? You knew people from your childhood, from your, like, there were bonding of years or lives together. And in today's scenario, you are individuals.
Yes. Yeah, liquid relationships. Yes.
so can we call that?
It will happen. It will happen, and we'll have to see what kind of human beings we pick up. Then maybe we'll step back a little. I don't know. Too much to speculate on that. But there are the signs of that becoming too much of a strain are visible all over the world. In terms of mental breakdowns, in terms of suicide, in terms of health problems which were never there before, all that kind of thing is beginning to show that we are at that point where we really are hankering for something a little more steady. And already you will see it in why did US vote for Trump? Why did Brexit vote for? Why did it go that way? Because people got tired of this. We don't have anything. No, at least. Bad. Very bad. But it's a trend which is the opposite reaction to this. So, but we'll have to find a positive way of integrating it. Big task for us.
With the increasing complexities, what are the factors that play role nowadays in a space making? Like, do they really play a role?
You have a body.
Yes.
So there's a front,
Yeah.
there's a right hand side, left hand side. So space is there all the time.
But what
Irrespective of whether it's complex or simple, you are working in space.
What are the aspects like in earlier times there used to be more simple spaces?
Not true. You look at the gridded and glassed in space today. It's the simplest space ever. It is the fully leached out space. You know what is leaching out? Completely remove all character from it. today's space, today's architecture is first you remove everything, then you give it a shape. If you want to make it some kind of a building which stands for something, then you give it a funny shape. Like in Singapore, you saw those two towers and that things spanning the top. But first you remove everything so that you can sell it by the square foot. The only thing that remains is quantity, not quality. And that's not space. Okay? So, the only way is to go back to the more complex spaces, where there was mystery, where there was some kind of awkwardness at times. Now you go to some of these old houses, they are so awkward to use. Bloody good. Yeah? So, I'm not saying that you should design awkward things, but I think that as we have gone, as civilization has come towards this, most of the time it is said we have become more complex. I would say we have become more simple by only having quantity as the measure of anything. We have simplified life to rupees. Only quantity. Not even square feet, rupees. Because that's completely liquid. The more we can connect to actual reality, the more complex life becomes. And the more interesting it is. Yeah.
You have talked about the nomadics and the farmers and the city dwellers. The in between, which are the farmers. Nowadays, what is happening? The rural is going towards suburban and to the urban. So that there is that sucking of the urban. So the character of the rural, the villages are day by day decreasing. So that is an issue. So how can we maintain that character of village? Because they are more influenced.
We should try to maintain something. We should try to make something new. There will be a new form of architect farmer, or scientist farmer, or bus driver farmer. I think there will have to be new ways in which we redistribute people. That we are in the process of doing, all of us. Yeah? And it will come, one day it will become quite a good thing for a young man to say, well, I am leaving home and I am going to go and do farming. It will. It's only that we have to value it more.
When we talk about the inhabitation of a place, as you mentioned in those terms about the paleo technique, the info technique, the global fluid, why are we looking at the inhabitation of the place from the point of view of humans only? Why isn't it being thought of or ever mentioned from the point of view of the other organisms which we are supposed to coexist?
Yes. Actually, this is a human-centered. Language itself is human-centered. So our body, for example, when we describe, we don't talk about the millions of bacteria which are inhabitants, and we are dependent on them. We live because the bacteria live. In the same way, the cities live because many other things also live. And I agree that it could be looked at from many other points of view. It would be a very nice research project to look at the city from the point of view of a cat, for example, or from the point of view of a Kagadamu share. It might be wonderful And if somebody does that, I'll be very happy to read and use that explanation in a lecture. Nobody has done that kind of thing. But it's good.
Everything is within one space, the memories and all. And you show that the modern life, how it is changing day by day. And you show that the future technologies. So how is that sense that the memories, that the space you have talked about is going to survive in this modern life and the modern technologies? As the definition of how this changes.
Selfies. You take selfies and you never look at them again. Because the capturing of memories works with the intensity of imagination. It doesn't work with physical things. And the more physical things we get hooked to, the less our imaginative capacity is getting used. And I think that's one of the other things. How do we create? There was this, in US there is this professor, she once a week, at the beginning of her course, she does a media fast. So for 1 week, no mobile, no telephone, no computer, no TV, none of the media instruments is allowed. And at first her students give her galis like, really bad because they can't stand it. After about 24 hours, they become really upset because they can't see a message and nothing is, and they are not on Facebook and nothing. And then after a week, they start really telling different kinds of things about themselves. And that course then becomes so wonderful. After that, media is allowed. But I think somewhere we have to find a way of igniting the capacity for remembering, but also for thinking about. So that's basically the way to. Yeah, last one.
Sir, as we talk about the idea of being a nomad, so in today's life, which idea is more important? Like, is it the idea of less ownership, or is it the idea of more traveling and like less permanent stay or stay?
Traveling doesn't make nomads. Ambani travel greatly. They are not nomads.
So, as in like, because we teenagers have this idea that we keep on traveling and we think that we are living lives as nomads. But the idea of ownership doesn't go away. And if we try to think of a city without the idea, like people having the idea of less ownership. So, because ownership comes with responsibility. So, if I think I have to take a responsibility, then I think that I have the ownership of that thing. So, will that work? Like,
No, ownership, responsibility comes from responsiveness. Ownership burdens you with supposed responsibility. And I think that, there were these bicycles which they were giving. Unfortunately, they were charging 1500 rupees for taking that cycle out of that garage, on the DRT line. Which wasn't a good thing. They should just have left the bicycles, millions of bicycles on the roads and allowed people to use them. Then there would have been a very different kind of. I don't know, kites for example. Kites are so, still, even now though they are expensive, comparatively cheap. And how we are able not to own the kite, but only take pleasure out of the fact of playing with it. Yeah? I think that's where some of the, in play, in the ways in which we do some of these things, there might be some answers. Okay, thank you very much.